Oh, hi, there you are. So today we're going to be playing with these distributed mode loudspeakers. If you look on the internet, there's a bunch of videos and people are like, hey, this is the greatest speaker since Swiss cheese. And I don't know if it's the videos or how the microphone's picking it up, but to me, it sounds nasally. Like a real nasal kind of, what do you call it? And most of the people that are playing with them, they have to add subwoofers for bass, and they have to add tweeters for treble. So to me, it's a mid-range speaker. And the reason I believe that is because it's got parts of a speaker, but it's not a whole speaker. If we grab ourselves a speaker, there's a lot of the same parts. You have a magnet right here. You have a voice coil right in there that suspends the electromagnet. Basically, the magnet surrounds the metal and the metal goes in between, and there's a coil in there that either repels or attracts, and it causes the cone to move, okay? So the problem is there's no bass with just the cone. And I found that out by, I have a set of speakers. Let me show you these speakers up here. Let me flip the camera. So after I mounted those are design acoustics that I bought way back in the 70s. And I hung them from the ceiling in here, and they sounded like crap because there was no bass. And those are supposed to be notorious for bass. Somebody decided way back when the woofer should be aimed towards the ground because the bass, would come out. But if you lived in an apartment, it'd be a really good way to piss off your neighbors. But anyway, the foam, after 20 years, the foam had disintegrated and there was no bass. So I had to replace the foam on the outer side of the speaker, and I had bass again. So the question becomes, where's the bass made in the speaker? If you just take this speaker and you hook it up, you're not going to have any bass. The bass is because of this cone, which is the thing that disintegrated in the other speaker. And you also have an acoustic box behind the speaker, a chamber. So between the chamber and the foam, you get bass. Unfortunately, these have no bass. You have the mount, and you can mount the mount, but there's no bass whatsoever. So the following video is a conglomeration of ideas to make this resonate a piece of plywood, and it'll be mounted, and it'll be in a small cabinet, and we'll see if we get any bass. We're going to find this out together because I have no idea whether this is going to work or not, but I'm just going back to basic speaker properties. Hey, the resonator is going to be the cone, and then the fabric around the inside of the speaker. You'll see what I'm talking about later. But the fabric will be the foam, and then the back of the cabinet will be the back of the cabinet, and maybe it'll resonate, or maybe it'll sound like crap. I don't know. We'll find out. Now let's get on with it. So we've test fit our frame together here, and we can see that a resonator piece is going to fit in the middle with about 1 inch all the way around for bass response. And we can see that our frame is relatively square, so now we got to put this together. So this is how it looks with the supports installed. It's not totally installed, but we got to work on the front first. But the spacers are in here. The exciter is hard up against the exciter board. And when we screw these down, it'll be like the back mount to a speaker. So here you can see we've stretched the canvas out over the frame and stapled it down. We've drilled a hole for our speaker jack, and on the front we've put our logo. So now we're ready to continue constructing the speaker. So we've made a little piece for our speaker jack. We put our speaker jack in the piece and it's going to fit right in there in the hole, but the problem is there's not enough room to get the wiring done, so we have to put the wiring in before we put the jack in. So we're going to feed this through the hole. And then put our screws in. Okay, so we had to wait for it to get a little tacky. We're going to go ahead and try and line up our resonator board as best we can. Well, equal on both sides, up and down. And we're going to press down. So now what we have, this is going to be our resonator board, and the outside of this is going to be bass. And we're ready to put down the speaker, or the exciter. Exciter's going to fit right on there like that. And we're going to screw these two ends down. I think we're going to pull these staples here and then screw the ends down. And that resonator will sit right on the resonator board. So we have our completed speaker. All nice in the box. And the back is completely screwed down. And we got our input, so we're ready to test it out. And you're about to find out, as well as me, whether it gives it any more bass or this experiment was a fail. So we'll figure that out in the next part of the video. This is a Yamaha EZ200. And it's got music built into it. So that's what we're going to use to do the demo. We're going to use that. We're going to use our scrapwood amp and the DML speaker. So here's the finished product hanging on the wall. There is a problem with it, and we're going to go further into that, but I need to find some music to demonstrate how it actually works. You can see the plywood is actually sticking out a bit, and I think our brace is causing bass problems. The interesting thing is there is more bass, but you'll see what I'm talking about here soon. So we're going to go ahead and turn the music on, and I'll show you how bad the bass is. Okay, so you get the gist of it. You can hear that it actually has bass, but it's distorted bass. So what we're going to do is take the back off of it and take the brace off of that and see if that helps.
So that didn't help either. But what I did find is rather interesting. If we put some kind of suppressor on the back board, you actually get decent sounding bass. So let's do that. You hear the garbage. If I suppress the board, you get good bass. So, when I first started this adventure, I was hoping that these would be pretty cool and you can have something that you can hang on the wall, like a painting or something like that, and the music would come out behind it. It'd be really neat. Yeah, you can make some flat styrofoam speakers with these, and they'll sound okay, but they won't have any bass. And we found that you probably could make some bass if you had the right dampening effect. Now, there are speakers out there that are flat. They're called magnepans, and they're pretty amazing. The first time I heard some was in 1987, and I thought, wow, these are pretty amazing. But they're big. They stand about 5 feet off the floor. They have new versions that are smaller, but they're really expensive, and you need an amp to drive them. You need a pretty substantial amp. And there are also electrostatic speakers. The electrostatic speakers, again, are very expensive and they take up a lot of space, and they have to add a subwoofer because their bass response is not good. And the big problem with that is the phase relationship of the electrostatic speaker versus the regular speaker. There's a phase delay that the electrostatics, you'll hear that first and then you'll hear the bass second. So the question becomes, is this the best $15 speaker you could make? The answer is no. They're neat, they're interesting, but you're not going to get true audiophile sound out of these. It's just not going to happen. The other thing is that the original speaker was designed by RCA back in 1921, and it consisted of an electromagnet in the back and a paper core out front. And since then, speaker design has come a long way. But the rules of physics say that if you're going to have a piston, you need a paper cone, you need something to dampen the effect of the bass, and you get the best sound. So for over 50 years, this was the design that worked. And this basic design still works, and it's not very expensive to manufacture, depending upon, the type that you choose, but the average Joe can afford these. And that has to do with the laws of physics. I mean, if you take an airplane wing, it's pretty much the same as it was when the Wright brothers designed it. You have a flat surface on the bottom and you have a curved surface on the top, which gives you the vacuum. To this day, airplanes are still designed with that configuration. And why? Due to physics. With a magnet behind, the cone is the best thing that works due to physics. So if you were to design the best speaker there ever was from these DML exciters, it would probably look like this, with the cone in front of it. I've learned a lot on this journey, and I will say I may do some experiments in the future on speakers, but here's the learning, and here's the getting better at what we do.